When Alyssa walked into the conference room, no one even turned to look. Stacks of documents were already laid out on the table. The projector screen blinked with graphs, and the air smelled of expensive coffee. One of the managers, without even glancing her way, casually waved a hand. "Printouts over here. And 2 waters." The usual routine. After years in the company, Alyssa had learned not to react, to the tone, to the smirks. That's just how it always was here. She existed nearby, but never truly within. Invisible. Part of the furniture. Coffee, water, contracts, that's all you are. At least you're not in the way, she thought bitterly as she returned to the chair by the window. No one offered her a seat at the main table. Just a corner chair, like it had been left there by accident. Phones rang, people joked. Someone laughed at a joke about a construction site. And then one of the junior partners, the one with the perfectly ironed collar, called out to the room. "Why bother typing it up yourself? We've got a secretary. Or do you just serve coffee?" The room went quiet. Someone chuckled. Another sipped their water, trying to stay out of it. Alyssa lowered her eyes. Not because she was ashamed, but because she knew there was no use defending herself in this place. From that moment on, she stopped listening. She stared out the window at the reflection of the glass building across the street. She remembered how, in another life, she used to translate meetings like this, from the other end of the table. Where the real voices were. If only they knew, she thought. A top degree in East Asian languages. 10 years as a translator on high-level project teams. Then came the divorce, her mother's illness, debt, losing her job. All that was left of the old Alyssa were scars and a photo on her nightstand, young, in a business suit, microphone in hand. The blazer now gathered dust in her closet. No need for it in a world where all that was expected of her was silence. After the meeting, she collected the glasses, checked if anything had been left behind, and walked out. Voices echoed behind her. "Alyssa, drop those off at accounting, and we need copies for the department by the end of the day." She didn't turn back. Her day started at 6:30. Black tea with lemon, a piece of toast, morning news humming in the background. Then the bus, standing room only as usual. At the office, the meeting room lights already on, a pile of mail, minor tasks. Occasionally, someone would say, "We're having trouble with the Chinese partners again, have you heard?" Then they'd walk right past her. But Alyssa had heard. She even read up on those Chinese investors no one could seem to connect with. Everyone was waiting on a big agreement, but the negotiations kept stalling. The other side never spoke directly, dropping hints, fumbling through unfamiliar terms. "It's just a different mentality," Alyssa once thought as she set down a summary note. Then, chastising herself, "Not your business. Keep your head down. It's easier." Her desk was in a hallway between 2 offices, a space filled with drafts, the smell of other people's coffee, and a chorus of phones. But she liked it. No drama, no tension. Just work. One afternoon, the project manager stopped by. "Alyssa, we're meeting with the delegation tomorrow," he said without looking up. "Make sure the room's ready, water, pens, notepads." "Of course," she replied. Then hesitated, adding, "If you'd like, I could sit in. I speak a little Chinese." He smirked. "Thanks, Alyssa. But let's not experiment. We've got a translator." That night, she couldn't sleep, not out of hope, but out of frustration with herself. Why did I even offer? She thought. Is this how it'll be? A life lived in the shadows? She remembered reading Chinese poetry in the original, rehearsing the tones, leading construction project negotiations, back when the world was different. And what hurt wasn't the job. It was that no one saw her as a person anymore. The next morning, she arrived early. Wiped down the tables, turned on the projector, laid out the pens. Colleagues filed in. The translator, a young man, brought the delegation. Elissa took her usual spot, hands empty, heart full. The talks were sluggish. The Chinese rep smiled politely, took notes, but eventually stopped making eye contact. The translator tried, but stumbled over terms, misinterpreted key ideas. One Chinese delegate whispered to another, then simply nodded, avoiding further clarification. Elissa, sitting at the wall, head down, heard everything. Every word, every nuance. In her mind, she translated automatically, like she used to. Just for herself. And with every sentence, it became clearer, the delegation was disappointed. Not by the deal, but by the disconnect. The cultural nuances weren't being read. The room felt cold. They don't feel truly heard, Elissa realized. The translator tripped again. A delegate corrected him, but didn't bother repeating the point. They were giving up. One closed his notebook. Another adjusted his glasses and said, "We appreciate the meeting. It's always useful to reflect." It sounded like a polite rejection. The managers shifted in their seats. The project head rifled through papers, glancing at the translator. And then, Elissa stood up. No one understood at first. She just walked to the table and calmly, in clear, confident Mandarin, said, "Excuse me. I believe there's been a misunderstanding. May I clarify something?" The Chinese delegates all looked up. "Please," one replied in Mandarin. "Go ahead." Elissa offered a small, quiet smile. Not dramatic, just confident. She didn't start from the beginning. She asked about key points, confirmed understanding, rephrased terms with precision. The room held its breath. Then the eldest guest nodded. "We didn't expect such speech. You speak like a native. It's admirable." Elissa didn't blush. She just translated his words back into English, word for word. And sat down again. Silence. Then questions began. The delegation re-engaged. A manager stole a glance at Elissa, like seeing her for the first time. The translator was politely asked to return to his notes. After the meeting, the hallway buzzed. Elissa wasn't stopped. Except by the director, who paused briefly. "Come see me later, Elissa. I'd like to talk." She nodded. Said nothing. He was never unkind, just always busy. Calls, flights, meetings. He didn't interfere, even when things were unfair. Maybe he didn't notice. Or maybe he thought it wasn't his place. But she noticed. Something had shifted. And more importantly, others noticed, too. In the director's office, it was unusually quiet. He sat at his desk, hands folded, staring out the window. "Elissa," he finally said, still not turning. "I was at the meeting. I saw. I heard." She stood silently by the door. Her heart still echoed with the moment everything changed. She hadn't meant it to be big. She just couldn't stay silent. He turned to her. His face wasn't stern, just unsure. "You did what no one else could. Not just because of the language. Because you understood what was really going on." He paused. "We're closing the deal." The delegation gave the green light. But what impressed them most, was you. They even requested to discuss a long-term partnership, with you involved. Elissa struggled to find her voice. "I wasn't trying to, I just..." "Don't apologize," he said gently. "You saved us, and did it with grace. No showboating. No ego. I want to offer you a new role." She blinked. "What do you mean?" He pulled out a folder. "We're forming a team to manage international partnerships. It's not just translation. It's nuance, context, negotiation. I want you to lead it. She looked down. Relief, fear, everything swirled inside. I'm not sure. Elissa, he said firmly, it's decided. And another thing, I owe you an apology. I saw how they spoke to you. I should have stepped in. I thought, they're adults, they'll sort it out. But you did sort it out. Just in your own way. Smart. Quiet. Back at the office, people fell silent. Out of politeness. Or awkwardness. Brianna, the one who joked about the coffee machine, sat stiffly upright. She nodded at Elissa. No smile, no apology. But also, no venom. Elissa sat at her desk. Turned on her monitor. And just then, someone placed a chocolate bar in front of her. It was the translator. Young. Awkwardly smiling. Thanks, for what you did. For me. She smiled. You tried. Just misjudged the pace a little. He laughed, eyes downcast. The new position didn't come overnight. First came conversations. Then team introductions. A few people stayed on. The air was tense at first. Elissa said nothing. Just worked. No grudges. No sharp words. But with clarity. One day, a manager stopped her in the hallway. Elissa, you've known Chinese this whole time. Why didn't you say something? She answered simply. Who would have listened? He didn't reply. Just nodded. 2 months later, she was invited to another meeting, this time as a lead. She spoke first. The room, directors, guests, even old skeptics, listened. No interruptions. That's when Elissa realized, she wasn't just being heard. She was being listened to. Truly. A year passed. Elissa now had an office with a view of the city. Small, but bright. Shelves with books, a ceramic vase from that delegation. She didn't change. No power persona. Still came in early. Still drank jasmine green tea from her mug labeled secretary. Still wore her quiet, simple clothes. But now people asked for her opinion. Not out of fear. Out of respect. The secretariat where she once sat now had 2 new girls. Cheerful. Chatty. But diligent. Elissa didn't boss them around. When one asked how to format a letter, she explained, calmly, clearly. I had to learn too. Don't be afraid to ask. They started visiting her more often. Even brought pastries. One day, she attended a company conference. Sat off to the side, as usual. But when the director summarized the year, he said. Sometimes, a single act doesn't just change negotiations, it changes a company. A year ago, one person reminded us what leadership really means. He turned to the audience. Elissa McKinley, thank you for your professionalism, your dignity, and for reminding us, there are no less important employees. The applause wasn't loud. But it was real. That evening, Elissa walked home slowly. Her cat greeted her, rubbed against her legs, meowed with his usual disapproval, and sat beside her as she changed. She put the kettle on, took out her favorite jasmine green tea, and sat down. On her tablet, a message from the delegation. An invitation. This time, to China. She looked at the screen. Then out the window. I used to think all I was good for was staying in the shadows, she thought. Not anymore. Now, she wasn't the shadow. She was the light, quiet, warm, real. Like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new heartfelt stories. And write in the comments, which city are you watching from?